wicked men are going to be shouted at. Well, all right, shout at them, because I had shout at them about the way they were behaving 2 or 3 years ago when the regulator and the government did nothing. Absolutely nothing to control them. But now, you've got to, once you have a bit of a shout, and then get down to the nitty-gritty of why they can't lend at everybody's exorbitant to do. Until you solve that, you won't get anywhere.
And that's why I say, Andrew, we don't really know what's happening, because actually what I'm absolutely certain is that there's a lot of these conversations taking place between government, whether Shriti Videra or Peter Mandelson, and the banks, to address these questions. And I think we don't know what the full scale of those conversations is, because I think everybody is seized of the problem and that it has to be solved.
So watching Gordon Brown today, what's your view of him now?
I retain the view that I said at the weekend. I think he's handling this economic crisis extremely well. I did have many criticisms of him, as you referred to earlier, Andrew, quite rightly. But I think in these last 7 or 8 weeks, he and Alistair Darling have done very well. And on the key political question of the moment, which is to be active or not, to have a fiscal stimulus or not, I think they're making the right call, and I think the Tories are making the wrong call.
And the government, or Labour, the party on the backbenches, is largely united now behind Gordon Brown.
Pretty much. I think that there's a debate to be had about the future, about where we go. There's also a debate actually to be had about the past, about how we got here. But in the present of what we do now, I think there's a very strong, united position that we have to intervene as actively as we can.
Why don't we see more of the former rebels, some of the ones that were fired, the ones that had public disagreements?
You had two to be asking questions today.
With 2 of them, though. Because we often don't see enough of them.
I think that what people felt was that there's a lot of issues about our capacity to win the next election, which ran right up to party conference, but then a much bigger issue came along, the world financial and economic crisis. And the question of how that was dealt with was one where Gordon has led us, I think, very well.
You had a private word with the Prime Minister to say, doing all right, Gordy?
I haven't actually. Love him as I do. We haven't had that private.
Would you like to speak to him? Would you like to speak to him now?
It's perfectly all right. We'll see how the relationship evolves. I always get along very well with Scots such as yourself, Andrew, and Gordon, and I'm sure we'll find a way to have that conversation.
I'm not quite sure how to take it. But tell me, Nick, about these new political terms of trade now. What do we make of it?
Well, I think the intriguing thing that Charles has alluded to elegantly, but let me just spell out slightly more, is the question I think the Labour Party may face, let's put it that way, is good though he's being in the crisis, is he the right man for the future? If I want to always stop a conversation with the Minister over lunch talking about how well they're doing, I say, please answer the following question. I would like Gordon Brown to be Prime Minister for the next 5 years because... Now, there is an answer to that if it's a crisis election. If he is able to have, as some Labour MPs want, a crisis election next spring and say there's a choice about how to handle this, I suspect it's a question he'll answer very easily. If it is in a year and a half's time and the crisis is over, there will be a difficult question for Labour, and I don't mean this disparagingly for Gordon Brown, there would be for any leader seeking a 4th term, as to really another 5 years, and then who would take over after that? Would he retire halfway? So I don't think these debates that Charles Clarke started are in truth over. They are put on hold for a number of months.
Would you advise the Prime Minister to go for a spring election or to hold on until 2010?
I would definitely say hold on until 2010, May 2010. I'd go further myself. I would announce today that the next general election will be in May 2010. I generally favour fixed-term parliaments, and I think this alleged advantage to the Prime Minister of the day of having the ability to choose the election day, certainly on Labour's side, with Gordon a year ago, with Jim Callaghan in 1978 and so on, is very much an alleged advantage rather than a real advantage.
And Ken Clarke, just briefly, do you think he will hold on to 2010?
I think he wants to go to 2009. I mean, my criticism of the Prime Minister is a time of national crisis is he's playing party politics. Everything he says, but everything he does, even the documents they put out around the PBR are to attack the Conservatives. He's a partisan, a Prime Minister.
He should go in 2009.
I think he thinks that he can't possibly go to 2010 through a dreadful recession, with it becoming ever more obvious that huge tax cut increases and spending cuts are required. And if he can go in 2009, he will, on the lines he's setting out now. But I don't think the polls are going to let him. I don't think the public are going to forgive him for the obvious consequences of his chancellorship.
Well, they may be brothers, but once again, they're in complete disagreement. It's a happy family all round. Nick, thanks for being with us.
Hard-working, happy family.
Very hard-working, happy family.
Let's start all that off again now.